This machine is known as the disc sander, and this disc sander is used for sanding, shaping, and forming wood. The first safety rule has to deal with what is written on the table. There's a correct side and an incorrect side to sand on. We always want to stay on the side that says yes. Never sand on the side that says stay off. The reason is because since the disc rotates counterclockwise, if you sand on the side that says stay off, it's going to want to take your piece of wood, fling it off the table, and shoot it out, which is not safe. So you always want to stay on the side that says yes. The next safety rule is to make sure you always keep your hands as far away from the edge of the disc or the edge of the table and the disc as possible. You want to stay as far away as you can. Generally, the rule of thumb is keep your fingers at least 3 inches away. You never want to have them very close. So when you're sanding, you can sand anywhere in this area as long as you keep your fingers and body parts 3 inches away from the disc itself. When you're sanding, it's a general good rule of thumb to sand in a back and forth motion to keep your wood from burning or charring on the side that's making contact with the disc. The next safety rule, make sure the vacuum is on and connected to the side port. That way we can prevent all kinds of dust from spreading into the air and making a giant mess. So make sure it's always connected and turned on. When you're finished using the sander and it's still spinning, you turn it off. The on-off switch is back here in the rear. You take a scrap piece of wood and lightly sand back and forth until the disc stops moving. Never walk away from it when the disc is moving. Always slow it down after you turn it off, and finally turn the vacuum off before finishing up and leaving. Another safety rule is if you have to sand an angle on a piece of wood, make sure you hold it in the proper orientation. Let's say the angle at which we have to sand is something that kind of looks like that. So what I would say is not acceptable is holding a piece of wood like this, because your hand could go towards the disc itself, your piece of wood could get stuck down in the table, and it just would not be safe. Instead, hold it at an angle like this and sand nice and evenly back and forth. Or if you have to do an angle where it's across one of the end pieces like this, hold your piece of wood carefully and slide it back and forth so it's nice and supported on the table. Another safety rule would be, make sure you keep your wood flat on the table when sanding, and to add on to that, make sure your piece of wood is not too small to sand. So if we want to, we can sand this end back and forth because our hand is perfectly far enough from the distance from the disc that it will not get hurt, but it's totally not acceptable to sand with your hands this close, or try to sand something as small as this, or even smaller. That's just not acceptable because this piece of wood could go flying down into the disc and take your hand with it. It's just not acceptable, it's not safe. So don't sand any small pieces that get yourself too close to the edge.